Now that we're back, let's move forward to this year's draft. You didn't select a single point guard. This was a surprising change from last year. Oh Jeff. Your stupidity astounds me. Didn't I just tell you that I created the most awesome backcourt imaginable with Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn? This year, it was time to address the second most valuable position. Small forward. Well, I would say you certainly succeeded. You did walk away with 4 of them. Isn't that a tad excessive? Again Jeff, you just aren't seeing the big picture. All 4 of those players bring something unique to the table. Let's start with Nemanja Bjelica. He has a great smile. And he's foreign. If that wasn't enough, we also get to stash him away overseas for a couple of years. I love doing that. If you draft an American and he sucks, you get called out on it right away. With these Europeans, we get a solid 2 years of anticipation and good vibes from our fans guaranteed. Let's talk about Wes Johnson for a second. The Wolves were also in need of a center on draft night, and DeMarcus Cousins was considered by many to have the highest upside of any player in the draft. Care to shed some light on why you passed on DMC for Johnson? Jeff, big hulking centers that can dominate the boards and potentially take over games are a dime a dozen. In the 2010 draft there was only one small forward with a nice smile who also played college basketball at Syracuse. I simply could not pass on that sort of rare talent. Wait a minute. Some people were calling DeMarcus Cousins the next Shaquille O'Neal. Players like that come along once every 20 years. That's a fair point, Jeff. But when have you ever seen a draftee wear a pair of plaid pants like Wes Johnson did? I'll tell you when. Never. Wes Johnson is simply one of a kind. I think we might have to agree to disagree here. But moving on, tell me about the trade for Mardell Webster. Well, Jeff, I have to say that this was one of the hardest trades for me personally. On one hand you have Ryan Gomez. He's a small forward. He has a nice smile. Then you have Mardell Webster. He's also a small forward. He also has a nice smile. When you look at it that way, there's really very little difference between the two players. Yet you felt that it was necessary to include the number 16 pick along with Ryan Gomez? I'll admit, when Pritchard first proposed this deal to me, I thought the same thing. Then he enlightened me to the fact that Mardell Webster had been recruited by Syracuse before ultimately deciding to go straight from high school to the pros, and suddenly, I felt he was too good of a prospect to pass up. At the end of the day, neither Ryan Gomez or Luke Babbitt had any connection to Syracuse. I think it's safe to say that I managed to kick Pritchard on his way out the door with that deal. I don't know what to say, David. You've left me speechless. Let's not forget about Lazar Hayward. Oh, don't worry. I was just about to ask. Again, let's remember to look at this pick in context. You already have drafted one small forward with the number 4 pick. You traded the number 16 pick for a second small forward. You're on the clock with pick number 29. You have a gaping hole at center. Hassan Whiteside, a center, is just sitting there right for the picking. And you pick Lazar Hayward. But why? Doesn't it just roll off your tongue? Lazar. Lazar. Laser RRRR. Just a great name for a small forward. And let me guess. Does he have a nice smile? Don't know my draft picks, Jeff? Apparently so. Okay. So you've made your draft picks, and now you can roll out a starting 5 of all small forwards, and they all have nice smiles, and may or may not have been within 100 miles of Syracuse or at least gone to a school with orange as one of their team colors. How do you approach free agency? Jeff, going into free agency we had 2 main targets. Point guards and small forwards were covered. However, we had a severe lack of white and athletic big men. With Brian Cardinal's contract expiring, we were left with the only one, Kevin Love. I made it a priority to lock up Darko Milicic and Nikola Pekovic on July 1st. Not only were they big, unathletic, and white, but they also, let me guess, had nice smiles. Well, yes, but I was going to say that they are both foreign. Am I hitting the jackpot with all of these moves, or what? Anyway, after those 2 were locked up, I went for the big and athletic white trifecta. I'm assuming you're talking about David Lee. Exactly. Unfortunately, those jerks over at Golden State beat me to him. I guess you can't win them all. Instead, I was stuck trading with Miami for an athletic non-white big man. Disappointing, I know. Still, not bad when you consider that Beasley only cost me a second-round pick. So from what I've heard, the final big move of the summer is to trade Big Al Jefferson. What are you looking to get in return there? Jeff. A magician never reveals his secrets. Unfortunately, I can't talk about that deal until it's done. Fair enough. So that about wraps it up then, right? Well, there is one more trick that I may have up my sleeve. I'm currently in talks to sign Luke Ridenour in free agency. Wait. Another point guard? You're not thinking long-term, Jeff. You see, I've spent the past year operating under the assumption that Ricky Rubio is joining the team in 2011. The truth of the matter is that I have no idea when Ricky Rubio is coming over or if he even wants to play for the team. But didn't you fly to Spain this summer to meet with him? Of course we met, Jeff. I just have no idea what he said to me. I don't speak Spanish, you know. I see. So what does this have to do with Luke Ridenour? Well, Jeff, let's say that Ricky Rubio decides that he doesn't want to play for the Timberwolves next year. I'm going to have a mutiny on my hands. However, I'm pretty sure that if we trot Luke out onto the court and slap the name Rubio onto his jersey, the people in the upper deck won't even know the difference. At least half the stadium will be happy that way. Well, David, it looks like you've got all your bases covered. And with that, we're out of time. Thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been enlightening. Thanks, Jeff, and before we go, if I could just take a second to plug the team's latest offer. Right now, the Wolves are offering a 2-year contract on upper-level seats for just $4 per game. That's only $1 for each small forward I drafted. And by locking in this low rate for 2 years, you'll be guaranteed to have the bird's eye view when Ricky Rubio comes to town next season. And on that note, this is Jeff Van Gundy and David Kahn, the soon-to-be former general manager of the Las Vegas Lobos, bidding you all a good night.